There's practical advice and simple ideas to help you give your home a fresh new look in the Changing Room's complete home makeover BBC book.
If you were one question away from a share of a huge amount of money, when a fraction of doubt can feel an unbearable pressure, knowing millions of people are watching you, willing you, urging you on, how does it feel when you're right? Dale Winton presents a brand new quiz show, the National Lottery In It to Win It, with the new look Lotto Draw Live, Saturday at 7:10 on BBC One. You've got to be in it to win it.
What is the point of you being here, right? You're never straight with me. I've had enough.
Oh, look, you've crashed.
Search the World Wide Web with BBCi's new search engine. BBCi, the search is over.
She's presided over 10 Prime Ministers. The Queen's relationship with her governments is under the spotlight here on BBC One in half an hour. Before that on BBC One, Michael Aspel's making a grand entrance.
Tonight, This Is Your Life's Big Red Book enters the red carpet world of the Hollywood Oscars. For 30 years, our man was a jobbing actor. His stock in trade, characters from the upper crust, toffs with titles. Then, overnight, he became a Hollywood hero, rubbing shoulders with Los Angeles nobility, to the delight of distinguished chums, one of whom tonight wishes him
many more successes.
It's all courtesy of the true Brit movie Gosford Park. Our gentleman knocked them dead in the role of writer, collecting the statuette for Best Original Screenplay from the screen's First Lady, Gwyneth Paltrow. Now he's back home, back to earth, and back to the acting. But of course in fairly grand surroundings. Here in the Scottish Highlands, he's back in familiar territory as Lord Kilwillie in television's Monarch of the Glen.
Keep it under your kilt, but this man knows a thing or two about the good life.
To bag him, I've taken the low road to the shores of Loch Lagan and the Ardberichi estate, which doubles as Glenbogle country. He's been a regular in these parts for the past 2 years. In fact, he wrote his award-winning film script up here. At the moment, he's in mid-scene on location down there, and this time he won't have prepared an acceptance speech. We've lost the ground.
Morning! £5.80, please!
Good afternoon. Forgive the intrusion. I would have an envelope with the name in, but I'm afraid that I've got it written here for all to see. Julian Fellows, This Is Your Life. I rather think she might. Can you imagine she wouldn't? Anyway.
I wouldn't imagine you dare do it without telling her, I'll tell you that much.
Well, there it is, and we've got a studio a long way from here to tell your story. You couldn't write it, could you? You couldn't write it.
Gobsmacked. Well, how extra. Well, I never thought that would be the result. Good heavens.
Among the many surprises waiting for Julian Fellows as we head to Inverness Airport and on to our studios in London, another soundbite from Anthony Hopkins. More from Richard Bryars. Jurassic Park's Sam Neill digs up the past. And a reunion with friends who will be right up his street. Julian, your life's become a series of surprises, hasn't it?
It certainly has. I'm completely gobsmacked. How did you round all these people up?
They asked for tickets. It's easy. Well, since you asked, our ensemble cast includes your brothers, Rory and David, with your Aunt Celia, and carefully selected gathering, many of whom inspired your Gosford Park characters. Now, the film's success introduced you to a new social world as you hobnobbed with Hollywood's hierarchy.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never fail to satisfy.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, this is my first produced screenplay, and I won the Oscar. You know, how realistic is this? It's about the same as a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland musical.
At your side throughout your Academy Award adventure was your wife, and in your acceptance speech you made special mention of your son, who was back in England with his grandmother.
But guess where I am tonight, Daddy?
He's here, of course, your son Peregrine with your wife Emma and a new friend of the family, Oscar.
Did you know about this before? Oh, you did. How did you do this? I don't know. How did you keep it a secret? You might have been... How did you do it? Because I know now she can have an affair without any difficulty at all.
She won't do that.
I hope not.
Now, Emma, the Oscar ceremony was an emotional experience for Julian, of course, and I'd like to hear your side of it. It was, what, nerve-wracking?
It was absolutely terrifying, yes. And we both felt incredibly sick before, during, after. But we were very lucky because we decided to take talismans that were given to us by people that we loved, and we took a little teddy bear that Peregrine had made, a little red one he'd made when he was 4, and we took your mother's watch, and we took my father's something else, and we took some shirt studs that were given to Julian by my mother that were the original Lord Kitchener, so that was an exciting thing.
It's rather pathetic, isn't it? We were a sort of bundle of good luck charms.
Well, it worked.
Well, it worked. Well, among the many friends delighted for you was someone who knows the feeling. He was named Best Actor in 1991 for his performance as a flesh-eating psychopath. You got to know him in 1978 on the TV drama Keen.
A peer of the realm cannot fight a duel with an actor.
Since then, he's taken on the role of Peregrine's godfather, and right now he's on location in Canada, but he'd like to chew the fat with you. From Montreal, this morsel from Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Hello, Julian. Congratulations. I'll keep this short and brief. I'm not very good at effusiveness. I will say my heartfelt congratulations and best wishes for you for this wonderful accomplishment, Gosford Park. My love to you, Emma, Peregrine. My best wishes to the gang, of which you are now the godfather. Stay in there. Take care.
Now, the Academy Award was the crowning glory for Gosford Park and a welcome taste of the big time for someone who'd been an actor for the best part of 30 years.
These are real weapons, they're not pretend. I told you, the modern army's got no idea what physical combat means.
Pardon? Well, this settles it. We send in the fleet. M, you have 48 hours to investigate.
Gloves, eh? Upon my word, Mr. Pecksniff. Your nephew's doing the thing in style.
He is indeed, Dr. Joblin. I need your 4 names.
Angus, Errol, John.
I didn't catch that.
Sharon. My father was stationed in that particular part of Palestine. It's a man's name there.
If you could command a large man of war here, I believe we could transport this entire example of ancient art wholly back to England.
Sadly, it is impossible. We do not have battleships at our beck and call.
That last scene saw you with the Reverend Philip Hunt, chaplain to Lord Elgin.
And one day, Julian, thanks to you, we lost more than our marbles.
He was Lord Elgin, the top-notch Nigel Havers.
Are you okay? Do you remember making that little film in Greece?
I certainly do.
You had a lot of fun. And
I remember more about it than you think I remember. Whoa, but not here.
Do you remember that day you said rent a car and we'll go and explore
a bit of Greeks.
Map reading wasn't my forte.
What he did was this. He said, I want to take you to a little place. It's only half an hour's drive. And I drove the car for, it must be 3 hours. We never saw anything. And I said, Julian, you're the map reader. Where are we going? And I looked over, and he had the map upside down.
Oh, don't.
For a writer, that's pretty good, isn't it? When Colin won his Oscar, he said, the Brits are coming. It's been a while, but you have certainly come. Congratulations. You're obviously a fantastic writer, and much success. And I obviously will be playing the lead.
Oh, soon?
I'm supporting actors here, but I will be.
No, the main role.
Right, back to scene one. August the 17th, 1949, and the first appearance of Julian Alexander Fellows comes in Cairo, Egypt, where your father, Peregrine Edward Lancelot Fellows, worked in the Foreign Office. But later he joined the oil company Shell, based in Nigeria. With your 3 older brothers, you're educated in England, but the family is still far-flung. David, you've flown in from Prague today. Tell us about the young Julian.
Yes, well, life of young Julian was not always easy at the bottom of a heap of 4 brothers. The moment I knew he was destined for the stage as a career was one time we'd done something particularly ghastly to him, and he'd decided he was going to revenge himself, and he turned to us and said, I am now going to get a mummy, and I am going to cry, and I'm going to tell her it's your fault. And he turned on his heel, and she was standing right behind him, which taught him a great lesson about timing.
In 1961, at the age of 12, Fellows J.A. fills his tuck box and heads for Yorkshire and Ampleforth College. There, your talent for acting is encouraged by the brother in charge of drama.
In particular, Julian, you were very good at being rather bad.
40 years on, Father Dominic Milroy.
I'm glad you haven't lost the gift of the gab.
An essential.
At the age of 13, 14, you remember being cast in some fairly sinister roles.
I do.
Parts like Thomas Cromwell in Robert Bolt's Man for All Seasons. Right. And then the lead lady part in a famous Scottish play, for which you were wonderfully cast with your sense of light and shade, your instinct for imitating other people's malice. So I wasn't a bit surprised when you produced that wonderful screenplay for Gosford Park, and I took a little pleasure in having been your first director.
Well, of course, in the Scottish play, I was the bad luck of that production.
And you were, yeah.
Because I was in a car crash and so never finally performed it.
Well, you've been good luck to the rest of us ever since. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Father Dominic. Next stop is Magdalen College, Cambridge, where you read English and perform with the Dryden Society and the Footlights. But your first leading role is on the small screen as part of the Magdalen College team for the 1969 run of University Challenge. Your starter for 10, how did it go?
Do you know, the truth is I was absolutely hopeless. And the thing was, I was dying of flu. And I got up and they said to my mother, do you think he's too ill? She said, of course he's not too ill. And so she put me in this gun. She fed me Tyrosettes that was supposed to soothe your throat. And you're supposed to have something like 4 in a 24-hour span. I had about 104 in about 2 hours. And in the end, I got sort of paralysis of the throat. But still, she was determined I would do it. And I was absolutely rotten.
Oh.
And we lost.
Well, annoyingly, no tapes exist of your performance, but we have traced some photographic evidence. As a student and later in rep, you make ends meet by dreaming up romantic novels in the style of Barbara Cartland, and you had to come up with a nom de plume, which was?
I know you want me to say it was Rebecca Greville. This name has been around my neck like an albatross. After, I think I only published 2 books under her name, didn't I?
They were lovely, though. And to get a taste of Rebecca Greville, we've called on a good friend of yours to give a special reading, Patricia Hodge. Patricia, you found an uplifting passage from the book what he wrote.
I absolutely did. This was the first one that you wrote as Rebecca. It's called Poison Presented.
Very good, too.
It is set in the court at Versailles, where the King Louis was on the throne. I myself shall play Mademoiselle de Beaugarlon. There's a lot of people here that could play the king, but it'd be awfully good if you did, actually.
You're not serious.
You've got to sing for yourself. Okay. This is another fine mess you've got me.
Humiliated enough.
Arise, mademoiselle. We are distant cousins, I think. I was only 22 when I wrote it.
Such a humble connection is hardly worthy of your Majesty's memory. She was amazed. Rumour had not exaggerated the powers of his memory. What else had it not exaggerated? His eyes were riveted on her arm. It was a second before he spoke.
Where did you get that bracelet, mademoiselle?
It was given me by a visitor to our home, Your Majesty, when I was a child.
A visitor with whom I was not unacquainted, I think.
I believe so, sire. I meant no disrespect.
I'm sure. But it is strange how one's past is always with one in the most unsuspected ways. Good evening, mademoiselle.
Thank you. We'll let you know. When all was revealed, you were appearing in the West End comedy Sextet, and in 1978 you played it for laughs again in the West End with Joking Apart, alongside Christopher Cazenove. And Christopher, you've been the best of friends ever since.
We have, but in fact we did meet a couple of years before that in Duchess of Dukes. I think, Julian, you did a couple, or maybe even 3 episodes.
I think I was in 2 or 3. I was one of those students who then grew up and died in the First World War.
That's right, and very precocious you were, I seem to remember. And I had some sort of doubts about actually working in the West End with you, like, on Joking Apart, because I thought, can I really bear this?
This is absolutely true. He rang people up to say, can I stand it?
We did become best of friends, and so much of a family friend did you become, but our elder son, my elder son, Linford, asked at the age of 12 if he could ask you to be his honorary godfather, and you very sweetly said yes.
A very flattering request, I must say.
Well, we were honoured too.
In 1980, you were in Present Laughter with Polly Adams before returning to Los Angeles. There you make an immediate impression on another young actor, as he recalls now from location in Prague, Sam Neill.
I think it's fair to say that our friendship got off to an unlikely start. We met at a dinner party in Los Angeles about 15 years ago, which broke into a heated and rather bitter argument between the two of us, because it became apparent to me that your politics at that point were somewhat to the right of Colonel Blimp, and mine were a little bit to the left of that. As a result of that argument, we decided to go down to Nicaragua and have a look around. Nicaragua at that point was in the throes of a civil war. I cannot think of a more unlikely travel companion than yourself, or a more entertaining one, for that matter. I'm glad to say that we emerged unscathed from that civil war. Our respective politics were completely unreconstructed as a result, and we became the best of friends, and we've remained so ever since. You came out of Nicaragua also with a new name. The locals, for some reason, had a little trouble pronouncing the word fellows, and you became known as Senor Fleas. We send our love to you and your little family of fleas.
In 1989, after 40 highly successful years as a bachelor, you meet Emma Kitchener, great-great-niece of Lord Kitchener. Emma, did Julian just point his finger and say, I need you?
He sort of did, in a way, yes. We met at a drinks party, which my uncle had taken me to, and we met, and we started to talk about China, and we spoke about China for about 20 minutes, and at the end of the 20 minutes, Julian said, will you marry me? And I said, well, no, I never heard what your name was. And he said, well, my name is Julian Fellows. And I said, yeah, that's great, but I'm still not going to marry you. And he said, well, will you come out to dinner with me? And I said, no, I don't go out to dinner with strange men. And he said, will you give me your telephone number? And I said, no, I don't give my telephone number out to strange men. And I went out to dinner with somebody else. And that night I wrote my diary, and I wrote in it. Am I allowed to say it?
You can.
Sometimes I'm not allowed to say it. I wrote in my diary, a funny little man asked me to marry him, exclamation mark.
But I had the last laugh.
Your determination pays off, Julian. On April the 28th, 1990, you marry at St Margaret's, Westminster Abbey, with a reception at the House of Lords. Now, when your father died 3 years ago, you inherited the honorary title of Lord of the Manor of Tattershall in Lincolnshire, and Peregrine is next in line. Peregrine, it's not always easy following in your father's footsteps.
Yes, once when we were in Malta, Mummy made us climb across a cliff, and we only had a foot of rock to walk across. And when we were halfway across, I said to Daddy, if you start to fall, let go of my hands.
It was while writing a screenplay based on Anthony Trollope's The Eustace Diamonds that you team up with someone who is to change your life. He became one of the producers of Gosford Park and appeared in the film as the American film mogul Morris Weissman. Bob Balaban.
Hi, Julian. I hope you're having a great night. I'm very happy I got to know you, and I'm very glad Eileen Maisel introduced us. You were just returned from the wilds of Scotland and your day job as an actor, and we sat down to talk about Gosford Park. I introduced you to Robert Altman. And the rest, as they say, is history. You simply were the smartest, wittiest, best writer we could find. We wouldn't have been there without you. We wouldn't have had the awards. We wouldn't have had the tremendous success that the movie achieved. And especially, we really wouldn't have had this beautiful movie without you. And success, I want you to know, hasn't changed you, Julian. You're the poshest person I think I'm ever going to meet. Have a great time.
For all your lofty connections, Julian, you've said that acting has kept your feet firmly on the ground. Okay, what's your favourite TV show?
I know that this is known, but I mean, other shows come and go and capture my fancy, but my heart belongs to Coronation Street. And always has.
Well, here tonight, for your approval, Rover's barmaid Gina, Jennifer James, with her husband Lee Bortman, and John Bowe. We'll start off with Lee. I think we'll get to that parcel. Lee, Julian came to your wedding.
He did. Julian and Emma brought a bit of much-needed class to our wedding, if truth be told. Particularly Emma, I have to say, no offence.
Get a hat.
And he spent the entire day getting as much information as he could out of the other actors from the show. He's completely obsessed, and Julian, we love you very much, but, mate, it's not healthy at all.
It's a real love, there's no question.
Jennifer.
Julian actually knows all the storylines before we do. He tells me what's going to be happening to me. I think you probably missed 1 or 2 episodes, though, while you were in America, getting all your awards. So
no, it was all taped.
Oh, right, I was going to say, well, if you want some tapes, love, I've got some contacts. So.
And John, I have a feeling you're going to topple that.
Well, I first met Julian when we were filming The Prince and the Pauper, which he also adapted for television. And it was very hot when we were shooting at Arundel Castle. And Julian, as it is wont, was stood behind the monitor day in, day out, all day, every day. And we noticed that the top of his head was getting redder and redder, and the cast and crew were concerned that he was going to lose every layer of skin. Well, the cast were concerned that he was going to lose every layer of his skin. So I came to the rescue with this hat. And now the sun is shining on you again, Julian. I thought I ought to give you another hat, but that's not appropriate, so I brought you this one.
Thank you very much.
It's not everyone who can wear them, you know.
That's true. We'll look after that for you. Thanks very much. Now, you got the call to write Gosford Park while appearing in the BBC comedy drama Monarch of the Glen as the Glenbogle Estate's neighbour, Lord Kilwillie. Earlier today, I dragged you away from the glorious Highlands, and your co-stars had more scenes to shoot, but taking time out for our cameras, Alistair Mackenzie and Susan Hampshire.
Hello, Julian. Well, as you can see, after you're whisked away, we're still back at Glenbogle, working away like dogs, filming until late hours of the evening. Anyway, I just want to say something, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to say it to the audience rather than you. You know, everybody thinks that actors are terribly stupid and very thick. Well, I want you to know that Julian Fellowes is the most articulate, erudite, well-read, knowledgeable, brainy actor that I have ever worked with. And if you ever want any really good advice, go to Julian. Anyway, Julian, have a fantastic night. And Oscar, this is your life. It's fantastic for you.
You're meant to be around my house for dinner tonight, but you're forgiven. And to think that not far from here, at the Rowan House Bed and Breakfast in Kingussie, you slaved over your laptop whenever you had a break from filming, and you wrote Gosford Park. So congratulations, Julian, from all of us up here. And, well, certainly from my point of view, I'd like to say that in the 12 years since I've known you, I've always known that you were destined for greatness, so well done. Oh, you better hurry up, because I've got a scene to do tomorrow.
But this season, something is missing from Glenbogle, your sparring partner, the former Laird. He's appearing in the West End tonight in Bedroom Farce. From backstage at the Aldwych, Richard Bryars.
Julian, congratulations on your wonderful success in Gosford Park. It really is superb. I mean, I always knew you were clever, but I didn't know you were brilliant. But I mean, one minute we're doing our double act in the wilds of Scotland in Monarch of the Glen. Next minute, you and Emma are King and Queen of Hollywood. Miss Marvellous. Do try and come and see us at the theatre, and we'll get the royal box ready for you, of course, darling. Have a great evening. Bye for now.
Your script for Gosford Park proved such a compelling comment on our class system that it was dubbed a Who Cares Who Done It. One of the pivotal characters of the film was the award-winning star of Angela's Ashes and Hilary and Jackie. She put this on the record, Emily Watson.
Well, what shall I say? Not only did you write us a really brilliant script for Gosford Park, and it was such a thrill watching you collect that Oscar, but also you are an incredible pedant. You were there on the set every day, scrutinising every detail of what happened in that house, and I remember one particularly long debate about whether or not Derek Jacobi should iron a newspaper, and you were insistent that he shouldn't iron a newspaper because newspapers are only ironed in the mornings, they are not ironed in the afternoons. Now, I'm sure the ironing starts very early in your house, Julian, because you've got all those incredible reviews to keep in order. Okay, so that's it, and lots of love, and congratulations, and see you soon.
Most of your friends watched your Hollywood triumph at home, and Osmond Bullock, it was a proud night.
Oh, yes. Julian has been an extraordinarily good and loyal friend for many, many people. Indeed, on the very day that he heard that he had been nominated for an Oscar, Emma got onto the telephone to organise a party for him, and it was not, as you might imagine, a party stuffed full of showbiz movers and shakers and career advancers, but entirely consisted of a large group of very good, very old friends.
Tonight we've heard how your success has been celebrated from Prague to New York, from Montreal to the Scottish Highlands. They were also raising a glass in Australia. Cheering you on there was one of your oldest friends who emigrated to Sydney 30 years ago. You've known each other since you were 6 and started school together. You've stayed in touch, though you've not yet managed to make the trip down under to visit him.
And guess what, Julian? I've saved you the fare again.
Fresh from Sydney via Heathrow, Adam Bowen.
Oh my God! Isn't this bizarre? We're these famous people now. So extraordinary.
You've kept an eye on him, well, most of his life.
I have. But he was a very, very funny boy always, and he never did any work at school. So I was astonished that he was so successful, but very pleased.
Oh, good faker.
But it was so lovely to sit in my sitting room in Australia watching the Oscars and see you win. I'm really glad to be here tonight. It's so nice.
Oh, I'm so pleased you came.
So am I.
It's really nice.
Julian Fellowes, this is your life.
Oh, my God.
The very private relationship between the head of state and her governments. Prime Ministers past and present give a unique insight in Queen and Country next on BBC One. And on BBC Two, Sven's psychological master plan for the World Cup. Horizon investigates.
To celebrate the Jubilee, there'll be hundreds of BBC Music Live street festivals up and down the country on Monday the 3rd of June. To find out what's happening near you, visit bbc.co.uk/musiclive or CFAX page 170. Jubilee 2002. We're bringing the music to the party.
Footage never seen before.
She was great fun, amusing, imaginative.
Bringing back the memories.
Couldn't believe we were going to meet the actual Queen. It was like, wow.
Meet the amateur filmmakers who got close to Elizabeth.
Thousands of people in there. It was buzzing with excitement.
And captured the moments that brought a nation together.
The mood was one of great elation and joy.
The People's Queen, Wednesday at 9 on BBC One.
The head of state and her governments now on BBC One. Queen and Country.